What if I told you that words can change the physical structure of your brain, that invisible wounds can hurt more than visible scars, and that millions of people are trapped in relationships where they're being destroyed without a single bruise to prove it? Welcome to the dark reality of emotional abuse, the silent epidemic that psychology research shows can be more damaging than physical violence. According to the American Psychological Association, emotional abuse is a pattern of behavior where the perpetrator systematically insults, humiliates, and instills fear to maintain control over another person. A groundbreaking 2023 meta-analysis published in the journal Trauma, Violence, and Abuse, examining over 100 studies, found that childhood emotional abuse has devastating long-term impacts on adult mental health, comparable to and sometimes exceeding physical abuse. The tactics of emotional abuse. Research identifies several manipulation tactics: gaslighting, making you question your own reality, memory, and sanity. Psychology Today defines this as systematic psychological manipulation, where the abuser denies your experience, saying things like, "That never happened," or "You're too sensitive." Isolation, cutting you off from friends, family, and support systems. Studies show this increases dependency on the abuser. Verbal assault, constant criticism, name-calling, and degradation that chips away at self-worth. Financial control, restricting access to money to create dependency. Intimidation and threats, creating an atmosphere of fear without physical violence. The prevalence. The statistics are staggering. Research from the CDC indicates that emotional abuse occurs in approximately 48% of relationships that involve any form of intimate partner violence. But here's the shocking part. A 2019 study published in the Journal of Interpersonal Violence found that emotional abuse often occurs independently of physical abuse, and victims rated as more psychologically damaging. The critical distinction. Here's what every person needs to understand. Emotional abuse is not about conflict in relationships. All relationships have disagreements. It's about power, it's about control, and it's about the systematic destruction of a person's sense of self-worth and reality. In the next video, we'll explore part 2, what neuroscience reveals about how emotional abuse literally changes your brain structure and why the effects can last for decades. Your brain right now, physically, structurally, might look different than it did before emotional abuse. Not metaphorically, literally. Neuroscience research using advanced brain imaging has discovered something shocking. Emotional abuse doesn't just hurt your feelings, it rewires your neural pathways, shrinks critical brain regions, and can cause damage similar to traumatic brain injury. This is what emotional abuse does to your brain. The neurobiological impact. Researchers at Harvard Medical School discovered that emotional abuse causes measurable changes in 3 critical brain regions. The hippocampus, this is your memory center. Research shows emotional abuse reduces hippocampal volume by up to 10%. This explains why victims experience memory problems, difficulty concentrating, and fragmented recall of traumatic events. The amygdala, your brain's alarm system for detecting threats. Studies show the amygdala becomes enlarged in abuse survivors, up to 8% larger than average. The prefrontal cortex, this regulates emotions and decision-making. Brain imaging reveals reduced connectivity between the prefrontal cortex and other brain regions in abuse survivors, making emotional regulation extremely difficult. Complex PTSD and trauma bonding. The psychological consequences are profound. Research from the International Society for Traumatic Stress Studies shows that emotional abuse can cause complex PTSD, or CPTSD, a condition distinct from regular PTSD. CPTSD symptoms include difficulty regulating emotions, negative self-perception and chronic shame, problems maintaining relationships, dissociation and feeling disconnected from yourself, a persistent sense of worthlessness. A 2022 study in the Journal of Trauma and Dissociation found that 67% of emotional abuse survivors met criteria for CPTSD. The long-term mental health outcomes. A comprehensive 2012 meta-analysis in PLOS Medicine examining over 124,000 participants found that emotional abuse in childhood increases the risk of depression by 3.06 times, anxiety disorders by 3.27 times, substance abuse by 2.24 times, suicide attempts by 3.37 times. But here's the critical point. These changes are not permanent. Research in neuroplasticity shows that with proper treatment, trauma-focused therapy, EMDR, and cognitive behavioral approaches, the brain can heal and rewire itself. In our final video, we'll explore the Part 3 path to recovery and the evidence-based strategies that help survivors reclaim their lives. If emotional abuse changed your brain structure, can healing reverse it? If trauma rewired your neural pathways, can therapy rebuild them? The answer, according to 2 decades of neuroscience research, is yes. But recovery isn't linear. It isn't simple, and it requires understanding the specific evidence-based strategies that research proves actually work. This is the science of healing from emotional abuse, recognizing you need help. The first barrier to recovery is recognition. Research from the Domestic Violence Hotline shows that emotional abuse victims take an average of 7 attempts before permanently leaving an abusive relationship. Why? Because abuse creates what psychologists call learned helplessness, a state where you believe you're powerless to change your situation. A 2024 study in the Journal of Clinical Psychology found that self-recognition is the strongest predictor of seeking help. Trusting your own experience, despite gaslighting, is the crucial first step. Evidence-based treatment approaches. Research published in the American Journal of Psychiatry identifies several highly effective treatments. Trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, TFCBT. A 2021 meta-analysis showed 67% effectiveness in reducing trauma symptoms. TFCBT helps process traumatic memories and develop healthy coping strategies. Dialectical behavior therapy, DBT, specifically effective for emotion regulation. Research shows DBT reduces self-harm by 50% and improves interpersonal effectiveness. The key finding: healing requires addressing both the psychological and neurobiological impacts of abuse, neuroplasticity, and brain recovery. Here's the hopeful news. Research from Stanford University's Neuroscience Institute proves that your brain has remarkable healing capacity through neuroplasticity. A groundbreaking 2023 study using fMRI brain imaging followed emotional abuse survivors through 12 months of trauma therapy. The results were stunning. Hippocampal volume increased by an average of 6%. Amygdala hyperactivity decreased significantly. Prefrontal cortex connectivity improved, enhancing emotional regulation. The research confirms, just as abuse changed your brain, healing can restore it. The recovery journey. Recovery isn't about returning to who you were before. Research in post-traumatic growth shows that many survivors emerge with deeper compassion and empathy, stronger personal boundaries, increased resilience and self-awareness, a refined sense of what they deserve in relationships. Remember, emotional abuse wasn't your fault. The shame, the self-doubt, the broken sense of self, none of that defines you. Research proves that healing is possible, recovery is real, and you have the strength within you to rebuild. If you or someone you know is experiencing emotional abuse, share this video with them and press the subscribe button. You are not alone. Your experience is valid, and healing is possible.